Hello, my name is Emma, and in today's video, I am going to teach you an amazing way to listen and take notes. This method I am going to teach you today is really going to help you. And I know this because I use this method myself, and I've found it has really helped me when I was in university, during meetings, during all sorts of different situations. This method really works. So first, before I teach you about the method, I want you to think about yourself. And I want you to think about, when do you take notes? Okay, so when do you listen and when do you take notes? So some of you might think maybe you're in university, maybe you're in college, maybe you're in high school, and you have to listen to your teacher talk, and you have to take notes to help you remember what they are saying. Maybe you've graduated and you're working in a business and you have meetings or presentations, and you also need to take notes. So this method will work for whether you're working or you're studying. Maybe you're taking the IELTS or the TOEFL. This can also help you on the TOEFL test in terms of improving your listening and taking notes. So, how do you take notes? Okay, I know some students, they watch their professor or their teacher talk, and they use their computer, and they just type everything their professor or teacher says. Is this something you do? Maybe you write your notes, and you write every single thing your professor says down on a piece of paper, or anything somebody says. Well, there are a couple of problems with these methods. And I'm going to explain to you some of the problems now. So for people who like to take notes by computer, there are some advantages of this. You're able to type really quickly, and you're able to get a lot of what you hear down on your computer, and it's easy to save. But the problem with this is it's a type of passive listening. So a lot of the times, you're not actually using your brain to interpret what you're listening to, and you're not actively listening. You're just copying word for word. You're not actually doing anything active with the material you're listening to. So working with a computer, and I've seen this in my university, a lot of students also end up going on Facebook during the lesson or lecture. So a lot of the times they get very distracted when they should be listening. They're actually not. So for me personally, and I think for a lot of people, using a computer to take notes is not the best method. Again, for some people it might work, but for a lot of people it doesn't. A lot of the times it's actually better to take notes by hand. And the reason is, when you take notes by hand, you have to think about what you're writing, because writing takes a bit longer than typing. So you're organizing the material. Therefore, it's more of an active way to listen. Okay? And they've done psychology studies on this, and they do find that taking your notes by hand is often better than taking notes by a computer. So today I'm going to teach you a way to take notes by hand using what is called the Cornell method. This method was developed at Cornell University, and a lot of universities actually encourage students to use this method because it is very good. So what is the Cornell method? Okay, well, I'm glad you asked. So I have here an example of how you would organize your paper. Imagine this is your paper that you take your notes on. What you can do is you can make a box just like this, where you have a box where you write the title and the date of the lesson. You have a square or a rectangle here. You have a rectangle here. And you have a rectangle at the bottom. Okay, so in total you have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 different rectangles. Now what do? So I already said you write the title here and the date here. In this column, you're going to write the main idea or the keyword a professor is using. Now, if this is confusing, that's okay, because I will show you an example of a finished a note. Okay, but for now, just to explain, in this column, we're going to write any big, important words, okay? So if you're learning about, gravity, you might write the word gravity here, okay? You can also write questions here. What is gravity? Or you can write the main idea. So this is just almost like the big ideas that you're listening to. This is where we write the smaller ideas, the details. So if you're learning about history or something like that, you can write the dates here, okay? Maybe you're learning about Shakespeare. So you might write, Shakespeare here and when he was born, when he died. You can write details about what you're learning. Definitions. If you're learning a new word, you can write the meaning here. If you're taking a science class, you can write your formulas here. You can write examples here. Maybe if they're explaining, something about science and something about, planets, you can write an example here about Mercury. And you can also draw pictures here. A lot of students, they don't put pictures in their notes, but it actually is a great idea to help with understanding and to also help you remember what you're learning. So here you write the big ideas or the keywords. Here is the detail. And finally, at the bottom, after you've gone through the notes, so while you're listening to your professor or your teacher, you're writing here and here. And then once the class is over, you think about what you learned. And you look here, and then you can write maybe 4 or 5 things that you learned today. Just by thinking about that at the end of each class will really, really help you to remember, the material. So this is a very active way to take notes because you're organizing things, you're using a lot of brain power, which is good, and you're going to remember a lot more than if you just type up everything the professor says on the computer or if you just write everything the professor says on the computer. The other great thing about this method is it's so easy when you're studying for a test or an exam. You can find ideas very quickly. So if you want to go back to about gravity, you can look for, okay, where's gravity? Oh, here's gravity. And then you can read up on some of the details about gravity. So it's very, very good for organizing your notes, which will help you in terms of your test. So now I'm going to show you an actual example of the Cornell method with actual notes in them. Okay, so imagine I'm actually listening to a teacher talk about the history of English. And I've just written my notes, okay? So now I'm going to talk about what I wrote. So here is the title. The lesson I listened to is called English 101. Whenever you see 101, that usually means it's an introduction to something. I've written the date here. This isn't the real date. It's not 2060, but I have no idea when you're going to watch this, so I've decided to just make up a date. So here, again, are the key ideas or main words. So, or questions. I have here, what is English? Dialects, and American versus British. So the beauty about this is when I'm studying for my test, I can quickly find the material. If I need to find out what's the difference between American versus British, I can just scan and go right here, okay? Here I have all the details. So notice this has a lot more words than this. This is just 1 or 2 words, whereas this is a lot more information. So here, under the question, what is English? I wrote, it's the official language in 60 countries. It's the most widely learned second language, and it's an Indo-European language, okay? So you'll notice I didn't write full sentences here. There's no point. You're trying to write as quickly as you can. So instead of, writing, it's the official language of 60 countries, I just put 60 countries equal official, and I could write lang here. This is short for language. If you can, and you keep hearing the same words again and again in your lecture, you don't have to write them out fully. You can find a short form to write. Anytime I see this, I know, okay, language. Just like down here, diff, for me, that's difference. So I don't have to waste time writing it all out. Okay, so this is what is English. And then I have dialects. Jamaican, Indian, Australian, New Zealand, Canadian, etc. A dialect is a type of English. There are many different types of English. And maybe the professor talks too quickly and you have no idea what is a dialect. I don't understand. That's good. What you can do with that is down here, you can also write questions you have about the material. I don't know what a dialect is. Look up later. Or something like this. So this can also help you see what you need to look into or what you can ask your teacher or professor about. Okay, and then over here I have American versus British. So the teacher was talking about American versus British English. So I wrote ER pronunciation. It's different between American and British English. The vocabulary can be different. And again, I would write a bunch of examples here. Maybe I might write lift versus elevator is different, or, real examples. This is just an example. It's not totally filled out. You would have a lot more detail when you listen to a lecture or a lesson. So if you're actually interested in American versus British English and the differences, we do have a video on that at www.ingvid.com. And what I actually highly recommend is for you to try to listen to that video and, practice this method. Write the title of the video, the date, write some of the key points the teacher is going to talk about, and some of the details. You can do that with any videos on our website and, for practice, and it will actually help you learn the material better and remember the material more. And then you can use this again in high school, in university, in college, in business meetings, wherever you need to take notes. The last thing I wanted to say is, today I learned. Once you have listened to the lecture, think about the material and think about, what did I learn today? So maybe today I learned that there are many types of English. There's Jamaican, Indian, Australian. There's so many different types. Maybe today I learned there's a difference between American English and British English in terms of ER pronunciation. I recommend writing, multiple things here. You usually learn at least 4 or 5 things in a lesson, probably more. But what you can do is think about, what are the 4 most important things I learned today? And write those 4 of the most important things down. This will really, really help you to remember the material. So I'd like you to come visit our website at www.ingvid.com. There we have a lot more resources on all sorts of different topics where you can practice using this method while you watch our videos. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, where you'll find a lot of other resources, a lot of great resources on all sorts of different topics about English. So until next time, thank you for watching and take care.